words of power because we are kings and our words matter. When you see all kinds of problems and challenges, do not be afraid. In life, you got to battle through so many things in order to go and possess what God has for you. Every step of the way, there is an obstacle. Every step of the way seems impossible. Every step of the way, you got to cross over certain things that stand in the way. But don't be afraid. No matter how big the challenge is, don't be afraid, because you will possess what God has for you.
By the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, everyone overcome. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, everyone overcome. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, everyone overcome. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, everyone overcome. Everyone, let's just sing that. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, everyone overcome. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, every overcome. We have overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, everyone
Sam Chelladurai invites you to a special pastor seminar at AFT Chennai on the 20th, 21st and 22nd of January 2016 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please note that all messages will be in Tamil only. Prior registration with a fee of Rs 700 is required. You can register online at www.refsam.org or you can call us at the numbers on the screen. We look forward to seeing you there.
Look at chapter 14, Numbers chapter 14, the next chapter. See, these fellows came and reported it. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried. And the people wept that night. See, the negative report made the people weep all night. They cried and wept all night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we had died in the land of Egypt. See? Or would God that we have died in the wilderness? It would have been better for us to die in the wilderness or in Egypt. Why did you bring us here? See, they don't appreciate God's blessings because their mind finds it very difficult to enter in and possess that land. They saw the pomegranates so nice and big and everything, But they can't believe that it's possible for them to eat such pomegranates, They can't believe that they can live such a high life, because that seems too much for them, because their mentality has become so cheap. Now listen to this. Wherefore hath the Lord brought us into this land? To fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? See how they speak so negatively. And they said to one another, let us choose another pastor and let us return to Egypt. They said, my God, this Moses is a prosperity pastor. And his assistant Joshua is always talking about milk and honey, and Caleb is talking about milk and honey also, and he's talking about easy life. He says, easily we can take it. We don't like these preachers. Let's change preachers. Now I can imagine 20, 30 lakhs people there. Moses was the pastor, assistants, Joshua, Caleb, and all of them are there. But I think besides them, there will be little preachers here and there among the 20 lakhs, preaching unbelief here and there in little prayer meetings of their own. I'm talking about the wilderness. I don't know what you're laughing about. And they would have said, well, Moses is all right, but I don't believe his prosperity preaching, you see. He says we're going to land of milk and honey. Where will we see milk and honey? I've never seen it in my life. My granddaddy never saw it. I never saw it. 60 years we've been slaves. Who has seen milk and honey? These fellows are talking about something nobody has ever seen. You think you're going to get it? I don't think we're going to get it. So such preachers were among them. Among 20 lakhs people, you think there was only Moses preaching? A lot of little prayer meetings were going on. That is why they said, let's choose another preacher. Let's get one of those guys, the old type, the poverty preacher. The preacher that says life is difficult and God makes it difficult. Difficulty is good for you. It will teach you things. That's a blessing for you. Let's choose one of those preachers and go back to Egypt. I'm sure there are some preachers there ready, Amazing what unbelief can do. Now turn with me to Deuteronomy 20. See, it's all because of unrenewed mind. A mind that cannot accommodate the kind of life that God has planned for them. God has planned such a wonderful life. He said, houses that you have not built, ready-made. Ready-made is not from America. Our God is the originator of ready-made. He said, it's all ready-made. Wells that you have not dug. Plantations that you have not planted. All ready-made. But they can't believe, how can it be ready-made? I've never seen anything like this. I've never heard anything like this. This is nonsense, How can it be? They could not believe it. That's the problem. They just could not believe that there can be a God that will just love them and bless them and give them a life that is so high and so wonderful and so blessed. They just cannot believe in the blessing because they've been out in the ditch for too long, you see. Now listen to chapter 20, Deuteronomy chapter 20. One of the biggest signs of the unrenewed mind is it is dominated by fear. Unrenewed mind, you see people with fear, dominated by fear, ruled by fear, governed by fear, led by fear in everything. They do everything by fear. That's an unrenewed mind. You'll see a lot of Christians like that. Listen to this. Chapter 20, verse 1. When thou goest out to battle against thine enemies and seest horses and chariots, he's warning them. You see, he knows that their mind is not fully renewed. So they're going to see the horses and chariots and say, my God, oh, horses and chariots. We don't have no horses and chariots. And they're coming with horses and chariots. He said, I'm telling you right now, you're going to see horses and chariots and a people more than thou. That means there'll be more in number than you are. When you see them, be not afraid of them. Rule number 1 for battle. Do not be afraid. Everybody say, don't be afraid. In other words, put in today's language, when you see big problems, when you see economic distress and setbacks and things like that, when you see all kinds of problems and challenges, do not be afraid. In life, you got to battle through so many things in order to go and possess what God has for you. Every step of the way, there is an obstacle. Every step of the way seems impossible. Every step of the way, you got to cross over certain things that stand in the way. But don't be afraid. No matter how big the challenge is, don't be afraid, because you will possess what God has for you. Don't be afraid. That's the rule number one. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear in your heart. Be fearless. When you see horses and chariots and people that are more in number than you, don't be afraid, he says. For the Lord thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be, when ye are come nigh unto the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people. Now, he tells what the pastor should preach when people are facing problems. Hello? He says, when you're approaching the battle, now those people are approaching battle there, but a lot of people are approaching battle here. There are some battles going on. Some battles are going on in the home itself. The home is the battlefront somewhere. Some battles are going on in the job. Some battles are going on elsewhere. Battles. People face battles after battles. How many of you face battles? I face battles all the time. And what kind of preaching should you hear when you face battles? Listen to this. The priest shall approach and speak to the people, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, you approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint. Fear not, and do not tremble, neither be terrified because of them. In so many ways, he says, don't faint, fear not, don't tremble, don't be terrified. Because this is such an evil, you see. When people's minds are not renewed, they don't realize who God is and what God can do for them and who they are and all of that. They are so full of fear. So he tells the priests, preach to them, saying, don't be afraid. Don't tremble. Don't faint. Don't be terrified. I say to you today, that's the kind of preaching that you should go for. Simple preaching. Don't be afraid. Don't be terrified. Don't be troubled in your heart. Don't faint. Don't give up. Preaching that will encourage you. Because everybody's going through battles. Everybody going through problems in their life. People going through sickness battles. People are going through financial battles. People are going through various other battles in life. And you need someone to tell you, don't be afraid, don't faint, don't give up, don't be terrified. No, you're going to win it. Don't give up. You need a preaching like that. For the Lord your God is he that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. God will save you. He comes with you. He fights for you. So don't be afraid, he says. Now go to verse 8. Listen to this. One important thing to do when you go for battle. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart. He says, give an altar call. Tell them to lift up their hands if they're afraid. Any chicken here? Lift up your hands. And when they lift up your hands, say, yeah, I'm a little chicken, I'm afraid. Oh God, I don't want to go to the battle. Go home. Don't come with us. Because you're going to cause us to be afraid. Because fear is terribly contagious. If you take people with you that fear will come upon you. Soon it will come upon you, because it's like a contagious disease, It just comes on you. So let them go home, he says, because they don't have the faith. They don't have the stuff that is required to win the battle. They're in the wrong side. They got fear. Let them go home. Let them sit there until we win the battle, he says. Very important observation. Don't take the fearful into the battle. you face it without fear. Now, let me tell you why fear is such a terrible thing. Job, for example, all his woes and problems were due to his fear. He says, the thing that I greatly feared has come upon me. The man was a good man. He's a godly man. He was a blessed man. Even the devil was jealous of him. He was so blessed. He had just thousands of donkeys and horses and camels. And that guy was doing really well, and a nice family and so on. But he was always afraid. Somehow he has allowed fear to enter into his life. And when fear took over, it destroyed him. Just one after another, disasters happened, and it destroyed him. That is why fear is such a terrible thing. And I'll tell you what fear will do. Let me give you a list of things that fear will do. 1, it'll distort your image inside of you. See, you have an image inside of you. The image that I have inside of me is that I'm a king. I'm a child of God. I'm a blessed person. God is with me. God will give me victory. I'm victorious. That's the image. But fear, you see, when you allow fear in your mind, and when you don't renew your mind and change it radically, differently, what happens is this evil called fear just enters in. It distorts the picture. When you distort a picture, you can take a person's picture and distort it in such a way that you don't recognize that person in that picture anymore. It looks like another person because you change certain things. So what fear does is it comes and takes that picture that you have as a king and distorts it so that now you are no more very clear about the fact that you're a king. There is no clarity. You're a little bit confused. You think you're a king, but you wonder, things are not happening very well. There is some clarity problem. Why? The image is distorted. You see, life is like a printout of what is in your heart. Right? Whatever it is in the heart, that is what comes out as life. What is inside becomes reality on the outside. So it's like a printout of what is in there. If the printout is ruined, then if the image is ruined, then the printout also will be ruined. If what you have in the heart, the image is ruined, then your life is ruined also because the image is distorted. Secondly, it will pervert your judgment. Look at these people, the people of Israel. You can't get a pastor better than Moses and Joshua and Caleb. Such fine men. If they had just believed them, they could have just gone into the promised land and enjoyed such good life, the best life. Such good men. Wonderful men of God. But they said, let's get rid of these men. Let's choose another man, leader, and go back to Egypt. See, their judgment is distorted. Their judgment is perverted now. They can't see who's right and who's wrong. They can't see what kind of preaching is right and what kind of preaching is wrong. They can't see what is right and what is wrong. There is a perversion about their judgment, They can't decide clearly what is right and what is wrong. Thirdly, it'll cause procrastination, fear. It'll cause tremendous delays in your life because you'll say, well, promised land, where all these fellows are saying giants and this and that, let's wait, brother. Let's just think about it next month, Let's think about it next year. After all, we have waited this long, let's wait a little more. But Caleb says, let's go immediately, at once, and possess it. You see, there's no procrastination. There is immediate action. Faith acts immediately. But there is procrastination on the part of those, that have fear. So you always put it off. You say, next day, next month, next year. And I tell you, when you put it off like that, things never happen because opportunities don't knock on your door all the time. You missed when it was knocking on your door. You got to seize that opportunity. You got to grab it and go with it. When I heard truths like this, I was challenged. I was challenged to believe. And I had to decide whether I should go with it or not, And I procrastinated. I said, well, maybe I don't know. But thank God, I stopped my procrastination. I went and completely took a dive into it. I said, I'm going to believe it. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to walk in it. And I tell you, when you do that, then you begin to experience the reality of these things. Fourthly, it'll paralyze. They say some snakes, when they bite you, they literally paralyze you. You can't move any of your limbs. Completely, you're paralyzed because of the poison, the nature of that poison. Now, fear is like such a terrible poison. It just gets into you, just like that poison of the snake. It just totally paralyzes you and renders you actionless. You just completely stop. I have come across people who were well doing work and having a family and everything. All of a sudden, they stopped working, they stopped talking, they stopped doing anything. They just sit there and look at the wall. I met a man like that, and I said, how long has it been since he talked? They said, more than 3 months. He never said one word. Never said one word. Crippled by fear, paralyzed by fear. Just sitting there, just looking at the wall, doing nothing, just totally crippled and paralyzed. 5, it destroys creativity. When you see people with fear, their famous line will be, I'm dead. I'm finished. There is no other way. I don't see any way. Because they can't think with creativity now. They can't see any way. They can't find a way. They can't have the confidence to find a way out of their trouble. They don't even have the confidence that God will show them a way. They become very sure that there is no way. I asked one fellow, you know all the ways then, right? That's why you say there is no way. You're almighty and you know every way, and you say all the ways are closed and there is no way. I looked at him, I said, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Not every way is closed. God Almighty knows 1,000 ways when you think there is no other way. He knows 1,000 ways for you to get out of your problem. 1,000 ways. If you'll just fellowship with Him and listen to Him, He'll show you one way after the other. He'll show you. He's got ways that you'll be amazed. 6, it will silence the voice of God. Fear. You won't be able to hear God, because fear is like a noise that is in your ears and your heart and your mind. It just disturbs you so much. It just keeps you so busy fearing that you're not able to hear what God says. When you're in faith, you're able to hear what God says. Fear is like a nuisance, just troubles you and just keeps you so busy mulling over this thing, you're not able to even hear what God says. 8, it stops the supernatural or the miracles in your life. It stops the supernatural or the miracles. There are many Christian people that can't enjoy or that don't experience God's miracles in their lives because miracles need an atmosphere of faith. Miracles cannot happen in an atmosphere of fear. That's the way it is. An atmosphere of faith is needed. You may be in deep problems, deep trouble, but I tell you, if your mind is working, that's why the unrenewed mind is a big hindrance, you see. Unrenewed mind, one of the main characteristics is fear. It is ruled by fear, unwanted fear. And when you renew your mind, when you're clear in your mind, you begin to think clearly. You begin to say, oh, my God is wonderful. My God can do great things. There is nothing impossible for my God. My God will see me through. I will not fail in this. I will succeed in this thing because my God is with me and He will see me through. You begin to think very clearly. And that creates an atmosphere of faith, and it creates an atmosphere for supernatural miracles in your life. So the mind is so important. A lot of people are not able to walk in that easy and light life because no atmosphere of faith. They have only hopelessness. They only despair, languish over their problems and their worries. They're worried about their job and the business and the profits and this and that and everything. And that is so weighing on them that the atmosphere of faith is not there. They cannot experience the miracles of God. When your mind is renewed, you begin to say right in the midst of all your problems, I'm not going to look at the chariots and the horses and be afraid. I'm not going to look at the magnitude of the problem, the number of people, and be afraid. I'm not going to look at my enemies and be afraid. I'm not going to look at my situations and be afraid. I will not be afraid. What shall man do unto me? God is my helper. That comes from a renewed mind. And I tell you, renewed mind will lead you to success. Renewed mind will cause you to live in the total will of God, in the perfect will of God, in the life, in the wealth without toil. It'll cause you to live in a renewed mind.
Friend, oh such a friend, and he made my heart his own. God himself is with me, and I know I'm never alone. No, all my tomorrows will be better than all my hopes. We've got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost. We've got love, my God is never wrong, and he makes time for me. We got grace. It blew apart my chains and set the sinner free. It's like a river and you'll never run it dry. We got power over fear and death. Hearts filled up with joy. The Holy Spirit fills me up and I need him every day. Fire, faith, and confidence, and knowing what to say. I gave my heart and all I am to the one who loves me most. We got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost. We got love, my God is never wrong, and he makes time for me. We got it blew apart my chains and set the sinner free. It's like a river and you'll never run it dry. We got power over fear and death, and hearts filled up with joy. The Holy Spirit fills me up and I need him every day. Fire, faith, and confidence, and knowing what to say. I gave my heart and all I am to the one who loves me most. We got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost. We got love, my God is never wrong, he makes time for me. We got it blew apart my chains and set the sinner free. It's like a river and you'll never run it dry. We got power over fear and death, and hearts filled up with joy. Oh, we got love, my God is never wrong, he makes time for me. We got it blew apart my chains and set the sinner free. We got it's like a river and you'll never run it dry. We got power over fear and death, hearts filled up with joy. Found a friend, oh such a friend, and he made my heart his own. God himself is with me, and I know I'm never alone. I know all my tomorrows will be better than all my hopes. We've got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost. We got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost. We got love, grace, peace, and power, and joy in the Holy Ghost.